Fix your mic so it's towards you. There you go. No, don't do that.
You know enough about that, Mike. No,
All right, do we want to? Should we start recording?
Oh, we're recording.
We've been recording.
Yep.
We can't put this.
We
in.
do this every time.
We can't put this in.
Who says we're gonna put it in?
Okay.
It's for our own entertainment.
it's
All
the
right.
sound.
This is the secret
editor.
episode. This is our
all right.
Nebula release.
What is this? Episode 4, I believe.
It's. I
Is it
think
5?
it's.
No. It's episode
Is it
4 because
four?
episode,
But there's been
episode 2 was
split, yeah.
episode 2 was a two-parter. So this is episode 4. I suppose online dating or dating in the modern world, as James has proposed.
Yeah.
Critters Corner.
So it's Mike, and James here, and
No Matt.
no Matt.
He's not.
Matt
he
is
ain't
right now not here. So we currently. I can't say that.
Run it back,
all right.
dude. Mike,
All right.
do the intro again, please.
Let's just not all of this. Can we
Save-
start at the
Yeah.
beginning?
Don't worry about it. Just be quiet for a
All
second.
right, let's
Just be quiet.
pretend this is the
Okay.
beginning. So, you go.
Fucking go. You. We'll let you
you
in this
start,
room.
you
We'll let you.
start.
Okay.
You start.
Okay. All right. This is episode 4, I believe. We have James, Mike D, and me, Mike G. Vivolo.
No Matt.
No. Vivolo had a baseball game that did not come
Got
to
rained on,
fruition.
probably.
I don't think we ever refer to him by his last name.
Well, now we have. So, James, we are discussing a topic: online dating or dating
Yeah.
in the modern.
So,
Times.
so I think it's more or less online dating because you can't really talk about modern dating without referring to online dating, and I think that is the at least new age. So something that we can more or less talk about because that's something that has become extremely prevalent.
Would you swipe right on me?
No, you're underneath me.
That's not very nice.
I ain't gotta swipe right on you. You probably
Like,
got
I would
you probably,
super like.
You, you know what? You probably got a fish pick in your fucking, like it's you holding a
If they
big
got a
fish that
fish
you
pick,
caught.
dude,
Yeah, dude, if you got
fucking
a fish
swipe
pick, it's
left.
Oh, like
over.
you're
bro.
on the
yeah,
boat.
like you're holding a fish.
Swipe left.
You
on
definitely
fish
have
pic,
one.
bro.
I don't have a fish pick.
Definitely no. I've definitely seen you.
I've never.
I've definitely seen you in a picture holding a large fish that you got while fishing.
Mike, you
no,
look.
I
never.
think
Not me.
I think
You look offended, bro.
I am offended. That's
Me?
hate speech.
a fish pick.
A fish pick?
I would never. Anyway, so
I have never once worn a Bass Pro Shop hat. Okay.
but you have a Gone Squatching hat. Which you know what?
That's at least quirky.
You know what? If
It
it's
is
quirky, but if you stand by that position while being completely serious, if you're on a date, it could be misinterpreted completely wrong. Like if you don't come off satirical
if
at
it
all,
gets argumentative about
which I know you would be. Would you not be argumentative
Well,
about
I don't think-
squash?
No.
He's
The
real.
BFRO.
Listen, I have gone out twice over the weekend. I've heard the screams.
How do they have 4 television shows? And you're gonna tell me?
4 TV shows, and you're gonna tell me they have not found this bitch once?
He's an elusive creature.
He is elusive.
But
Listen, how do you paying for online dating for like a premium online dating service, but rather than a
Hard
free,
pass,
say
dude.
Tinder Plus?
you know what?
I don't know.
Would you pay?
I personally wouldn't.
I wouldn't
but
pay.
I see how some people could benefit.
That's what I
from
was
it.
gonna say. Is like the two-sided coin. One, I think it's a little strange that Tinder sets up a paid subscription of like you want more information about the people looking at your shit, which I think a lot of companies do now. It's totally off topic, but like LinkedIn does that shit.
Oh, really? There's
Yeah.
There's a
premium for
LinkedIn premium.
There's a premium
Yeah.
where
kinda
you get
wild.
more information about who's looking at your profile. Like, I think that's really it. It's just more access to information, which I think is strange that they're reselling you your own info. That's a weird concept. I don't like that.
It's all info now.
I know, but they're reselling you your info.
Yeah.
So this is all stuff, or I guess it's other people's, technically.
I don't know.
I don't know. There's some weird gray area. But my point being,
Well, you can
for
see
dating
who's
apps,
viewed your profile, which
Yeah.
is a big like social advantage.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's like if you're gonna.
Well, is
if
it
you're
your
gonna
information or is
spend-
it other people's information?
What are you talking on Tinder, for example?
Like, because you think about it, like, what they're selling you is access to information. So I'm just in my
Yeah.
head thinking, like, are they
And more
reselling
swipes. I
you
think you
your
get-
information, or is that technically information metadata from other people
Well,
that
with-
only
with-
involve you?
With Tinder, I don't think it's I think it's mainly
You get more swipes,
You
right?
get more swipe. I think it's unlimited swipes.
Yeah.
You get to see who's
liked you,
liked
yes.
you. I don't think there's any more sort of it's basically like the free version was like very not privated, but it was obviously very limited, you know.
You
You
don't
only
know who
had like a
swiped you.
certain amount of swipes and you don't know who. So pay to see more. But for me, I think it's like if you're going and it's not cheap.
No,
You know, and it's like if you're going to those lengths, like
it's
it's
weird.
interesting.
I can see, because if you think about it, you know, if you really just wanted, like, if you really wanted, that's not true, but like,
you know how I think about it. It's like Wall-E on the big fucking ship. You know how everything is like
The Axiom,
computer
bro.
the Axiom. You're on the jewel of the galaxy. You're on like
This
everybody.
motherfucker remembered the slogan, dude. The slogan.
but not the name, just the slogan.
Listen, but it's how it's like everything was like
He's a sucker for power phrases.
everything is like monetized and like a screen put right in front of you. Like they were always talking to people in the chairs or selecting things. To me, it's like, you pay for Tinder and you have all that access. You're literally on your phone just swiping until it's dating that's monetized.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, you found,
It's
like a
commodified.
potential,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's also so it's you would meet so many, like, you wouldn't have met your boyfriend.
Yeah, I can't really trash
You know what I
talk
mean?
it
Like-
because it's like
The scope of people you can get in contact with is pretty crazy.
yeah. Well,
you know?
that's why like I'm not discounting online dating.
I think it's incredibly useful.
I think it's also incredibly useful because it helps people who might be a little more either socially inept
Or their
people
job
who are,
keeps them
just
from
their job,
socializing.
people who physically can't like go
Yeah.
socialize other ways, or just people who, like introverts who might not be, so inclined to like go out, like it helps people. And I think, oftentimes I think like it kind of does make dating a little easier almost because if people write like on the profile, you almost like
You get a preview.
you get a preview,
Yeah.
like, and if you have a type or something like that, at least kind of like where you're going with it.
I think it's two things. I mean, I think it's a modern answer to a modern problem. Whether or not you think it's a problem that makes a whole lot of sense. There's not, at least people in our generation, there's not a whole lot of there's not a huge, like in the 80s, people would get out of work and they would go immediately to the bar. Like that's how you met people.
Yeah.
That was a huge drive. And at least in this day and age, that's not as frequented. Like you do see groups of people at the bar, but it's not as robust, I think, as because there's so many other things to do now. Like
Yeah, I mean, I know people who will like go out to bars or somewhere strictly to meet people.
Yeah. It's
I
valid.
mean, you go out, you drink or whatever, but I think it's a little different. Like you don't go to the bar like, when you're talking about like the 80s or the 90s or the 70s, any time like that, you go to the bar, you might sit there and have your drink and, see what's around. But the more like in modern days when people like go to the bar to, explicitly find somebody, like you're actively almost like on the prowl. You're not just sitting there. You're kind of like, going from person to
Well, I
person.
think
You
that's
might be
because like it was just the thing to do. It was the thing to like entertain yourself, like, and because people have like they have so much more access to different shit which can grab your attention so easily. So like that's what people would, especially with like now everybody has phones or whatever else. So the communication aspect becomes a lot more like shortened, where in the 80s, like everyone would go to the bar because that's just how you got to go and talk to people.
Yeah,
And
but
meet
you know
people
what?
and stuff.
There with like the use of the internet and stuff. Bars, like going to the bar, has become less frequent for meeting people. But the like, how should I say it? Like the amount of communities that people now have access to, who they have the same, to go and meet people of the same interests, you have more access to that. So instead of the bar being almost like the local watering hole, you could go to said, group gathering or something like that, to where you can meet people of the same interests,
You could be on in the chat room for a live stream and meet someone nowadays.
You
know
could
what
be
I mean?
live, playing a video game on playing video games, and just in the live feed you meet somebody, and
Yeah.
it could just go off like that,
Or in like
There's greater potential, I would definitely say.
yeah, online communities.
Because there were people that I know who would absolutely shame online like any sort of online dating,
Because it's
or
new, it's different.
at least as of probably 10 years ago, it was, maybe 20 years ago, it was very new. And people would
It's still
shame
new.
it, and it's like, just because it's online doesn't necessarily negate, the human
humanity,
interaction,
yeah.
the interaction. I mean, there's still two people on each side of the screen.
I think so. I think with it, you can definitely meet a lot more people, but I think like it is one. I think the problem with online dating is ease of access and the idea of abundance, which so now one, you receive a lot
You can almost
a
be
lot less social practice.
you can almost be too picky because of ease of access.
And
like
that-
you're just
that-
swiping,
that's
swiping,
one thing.
swiping.
You can literally like
People manufacture themselves also.
yeah, it's
Like the pictures aren't genuine.
and
Even
I
Snapchat can be not like it can be skewed.
You gotta move closer to your mic.
it could also be
Don't- just don't sit
extremely.
that
It could
far.
also be well. I think with dating apps, it could be extremely disingenuous because somebody. I think it's just you're not really getting the information. So you're not really getting the information that is as helpful for like receiving or like getting a relationship long term because these conversations that you have, I think they're a lot easier to practice and just rehearse. Like everybody has their pickup line that they use and they know how to drive the conversation that's there. But there's, the 90% of communication that you get from being person to person that is completely neglected. So people technically they receive so much less information on you either way, and you receive much less social practice through that. So you really don't know how to like go on a date
Bro.
and stuff like that because you could just keep swiping and get like a whole bunch of dopamine hits. Because like look at all these girls that think I'm amazing, and it's like, well, no, none of them actually
But
know you.
yeah, but
Also,
go ahead.
just talking to someone, even on Snapchat, like, I don't know, for some reason people can seem completely different talking to them
true.
on Snapchat. Like, I matched with this one girl on Tinder, and we were hitting it off on Snapchat and texting at the same time. Like, it was crazy, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really dope. And, like, when we hang out in person, I went to her apartment. From the first second I saw her, I was like, "Oh, this is not gonna be
That
good.
lick,
This is not
And
gonna be good."
That's one of those instances where people receive less social practice, and you
that
as
liquid
the
courage.
other, you on the other side of it are like,
it wasn't even a courage thing. It was just literally like, oh, this is not the person.
Well, because
that
you
I
have
thought
the
they
time. You have the time to think
be
of.
quick
You
on
have the
your
time.
feet
You have
when
the
you're in
time.
person.
Quick! You have the time to basically manufacture what you want to say.
Yeah, you
know?
can really you can
And how
think
you
the
want to
crap-
look.
I could take 1,000,000 snaps just to say LOL at the end.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Mike G has taken 1,000 snaps
Listen,
just to say LOL.
listen. Everything I say online is carefully crafted. Okay.
That's
And your image can be carefully edited.
it's
even
kind
on
of weird.
Snapchat.
Like
Very true.
on that short sidebar, it's weird that you can be your own PR team.
Yeah.
Because you can sit there and think about how
You're
you're
marketing.
represented. You're your own marketer, like on social media. That's a weird concept.
Yeah.
But
Before I met Nick in person, like, you know how they're like, when you finally pick what college you're going to, and then there's the Facebook group
Let's
of
talk
incoming-
about that. How basically finding a college
the
roommate is
Facebook-
online dating.
It's online dating. So finding a college roommate, when me and Nick, first of all, because you got to message mad people. With
I
the-
remember.
Yeah. But then with Nick, like, we hit it off personality wise, but he thought from my picture that before he saw me in person, he thought I was a short, stocky, black-haired, like,
What
kind
picture
what kind
did
of
you
low
use?
quality picture were you using?
What picture did you use?
It was like it was in high school, bro.
Mike D, I thought you were actually a little Puerto Rican. I couldn't tell
I
what
said
you
black
were.
hair.
I know what you said. I was pushing it. See, when
And I
got
thought,
to that
I mean,
point,
I thought he was gonna sound different. That was the biggest thing. Like, you don't know how they sound is another thing.
What are you gonna be? Hey, send me a voice memo.
You could call them.
Nick.
Call
True.
him.
I mean,
A
I
FaceTime.
remember.
FaceTime is the closest you can.
True. I remember for like selecting like, you know, a college roommate, they threw us all into a group me and people are just talking, and then I was talking to this one person. And then I don't remember why, but just at the end I was just like, you know what, I'm just not interested
Not
in
feeling
rooming
it.
with you. It felt like a breakup. It felt like I had to be like, listen, it's not you,
It's no hard
it's
feelings.
me. I just don't think we're getting along.
interestingly enough, so when
was It's like,
listen, it's not you.
I like your
it's me.
sister more than me.
I-
It's just not working out.
I just don't think this is gonna work. I have different priorities.
It's like, and you know what? I don't want to be that guy, but it was like your brother came on to me at the party. I just,
I just can't be around you as much as I have been.
what is it? I've just fallen out of love with you.
Out of rooming. with
Serious,
you.
yeah, seriously.
So
God,
with for
hated
me,
my fresh room.
I started doing that.
You picked a weird motherfucker. Before we move on,
I hated
the kid,
Uncle
the
Tom.
dude, this kid.
No, that's different. No, he's one of my best friends. No, my
no,
freshman year roommate.
Oh, wait, no.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
And
he was a hunter.
He was a hunter, but you know, I didn't care. He seemed like a fairly normal guy. And then like I meet him at the orientation. It was very briefly because we were in different groups. Tall ass kid, tall, lanky, pale, kind of like, you know, eyes that just like stare. You know, the sort. And
you know,
and it
those
was like,
people,
oh,
when their eyes stare.
yeah. And it was like, oh, you know, hey, how are you? Seemed fairly normal. And then we move in with each other, and it's
Yikes.
like he probably was very socially awkward again because he never wanted to go out and do anything. And then
Was he just always in the room?
yeah, he was always in the room, and then he would make like periodic phone calls to his family at like certain hours of the day.
He's a
and it
family
always
man.
used to be like, "Hey, how are you? Oh yeah, I had X, Y, and Z for lunch. Oh, I had X, Y, and Z for dinner." Blah blah. You know, like the most monotonous phone calls with your and it's like why? Like
Listen,
why?
this man is
why?
white
Listening to his whole
It was
conversations.
after a week of trying to be friends with him, we just had nothing in common, and he just was not, giving any sort of like friendly vibes. Not that he was like, not that we were ever mean or uncordial to each other. We just did not click. There was nothing. There was no spark between
No
us,
sauce.
if you will. No sauce. That zing, it wasn't there. It wasn't there.
Not a lot of spice there. You know?
So basically, I just would do my own thing. I would walk into the room if he was there. I would say hey. He'd say hey, and then, turn on. You could turn off the light when you're, ready to go to sleep or something like that. Literally it.
That's so weird.
Literally
Oh,
it.
man.
That's so weird. So I had a
I would
completely
feel
different
That was
experience.
freshman year, and then after that, I was like, I'm moving out. Sorry, sorry, kid.
Get fucked. I'm gone.
Goodbye.
So like I had a completely different experience. I did that whole process of like I'm gonna pick my roommate, so I messaged a whole bunch of people, and I end up talking to these I'm trying to figure out between these like 3 people, and then at some point it just got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna be the one to fuck up this decision. That'll bug the fuck out of me. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the college.
Hold
survey.
that thought. Resume.
Oh man.
Yeah. So so I was like, I'm not gonna be the one to fuck up this decision, because to me, if I pick my roommate, and I know I will, I'll probably just fuck this up and hate it, and then also be like, damn, I'm the one who fucked it up. So I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I'm just gonna go for straight up. I'll let the university decide. I'll let them look at whatever my little roommate resume was, and have
Oh, you got a random assignment?
got a
Yeah.
random assignment. And I got 2 random assignments, because I said I was okay with a forced triple because it was less money to live in an expensive private university.
Fair enough.
So it was like,
Oh, you had the triple.
yeah, I had a triple. And
Oh, I forgot about that.
the amazing thing with that is I only had
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I only had to like one of them. The other one, it didn't matter. It was already, if I liked one of them, and the
It was
other
a
one liked me,
2-on-1.
It was 2 against 1, baby. So that kid.
the other one was pretty dope, though. I remember
Oh
that guy.
well, yeah. So that the one roommate that I had got was great. Like, still one of my best friends to this day. Like, I see him all the time.
You're a lucky
He's out in
man.
Wisconsin right now, but like, kid's awesome. Love the kid to death. The other roommate, I would almost attest to the fact that me and the roommate that I'm closest with probably became additionally close by our mutual hatred for the third roommate.
The bond.
The bond of hating that additional
I kind of like
bunkmate.
that kid. I mean, maybe I didn't see him enough, but
No, he was terrible. He was awful.
Oh, yikes.
So similar to Mike G, he would never leave the room. He was a chronic liar. And
Oh, that's
also,
weird.
I made the mistake of saying, yeah, sure, just you can use my Xbox when you need, like, just let me know. This motherfucking
mistake.
kid, I swear to God, I would come back all the time. Like, he brought nothing for the room. He brought nothing. So he was
Right,
literally
didn't contribute.
So he didn't bring a
Yeah.
TV. He didn't bring like video games or anything. Like, he literally brought his like laptop and whatever he could fit in
Right.
a closet. So I would come back, and this dude is playing just my Xbox, playing whatever game that I have, overwriting my saved files, by the way.
Oh.
That little fucker. And he just would be skeevy all the time. Great segue back.
That's why
He
you
was
swipe
terrible.
left. Swipe left.
No, he was terrible with women, but he would get upset when the other prospective women in our dorm would start finding other guys. And he would get all mad. Like, this one girl he became obsessed with for whatever reason. Turns out she's in a lovely relationship with her female girlfriend.
Nice.
Gross.
You shut up. For the audience, Mike G is bisexual. He is the boyfriend. Just so you know,
Gross.
that joke actually isn't rooted in pure hatred.
The audience that watches knows this.
Anyway,
I-
so he just became a problem child in the room. Like, he like almost put a hole in the wall. He Kyled the wall.
Kyle.
Yeah, he Kyled the wall and almost put a hole in it, but he wasn't strong enough to do so, but he punched it.
That's
And
strange.
he just made problems everywhere. So point being is he had poor socialization skills, and yeah, he was just gross. He was just the worst. But he would be somebody that would probably do great on Tinder. Bring it all the way back because he always just would have the same conversations with people. He was very socially awkward. He would always have the same conversations with people where he would ask them like the same 4 questions and then would just not follow up with the answers of any of those questions.
So you want to play 20 questions?
No.
You ever played
Not
20
with-
questions?
Oh, I
Shane?
played 20 questions all the time back in elementary school and middle school. That was like that.
I'm just saying.
You ever see those memes where it's like the guy's like, you want to play 20 questions? Just like, girl's like, not really. The guy's like, okay, I'll go first. Ask them like 3 questions, and it's like, how big are your boobs? That's like the 5th question.
Not far off.
But anyway, circling all the way back, I think that with online dating, you can get all this like, you can almost become like less driven to do the actual dating process, like the picking one person, going on multiple dates with them, yada yada yada, because you can just go on a date and then look at your phone and be like, well, here's these like 4 other people that I matched with, so I can just try and go on a date with them. Like the ease of options,
Unless you genuinely hit it off,
which
then you
Yeah.
wouldn't want to.
that's
go on
the
a date
idea,
else,
right?
yeah.
But I think with some people, and I've seen this happen, it's like
Some
They
people
just-
don't get attached.
they just
to
become-
anything. Yeah.
they just, because they have so many things available to them, they're just more apt to just be super picky and find one thing that they didn't like about the person and was like, so I think I'll try this person. And I think that's a flaw. I mean, it might be like ease of access might be a good thing because then you genuinely know when like somebody's good for you if you like go on that many dates.
It's personality dependent.
Yeah.
That could also be seen as some sort of echo chamber in a way, to where it's like, maybe the person or the type of person who you think you're interested in isn't actually like the type of person that's good for you. But because you have this ease of access where you can just be picky in a way and just swipe, swipe, swipe until you see something you like, you're not going to know, if like, these people are good for me or not, like you're not going to know the people you swiped left on. Like they could
you
bring a
could-
whole new aspect to your life and you wouldn't know that.
You could have that problem with regular dating.
I have that problem with you right now.
That's not an
That's
online.
so aggressive.
That's not.
That's so aggressive for no reason.
It's just not an online dating specific problem. That's more like a personality problem, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe online dating can
I mean, it can certainly contribute to it.
it can contribute, but,
if you're going to be picky.
right, but it's ultimately it comes down to the person, how the person handles it,
Yeah.
I just don't think.
It gives options to people who don't have options.
Yeah, but you
You know.
need to pay for the excess options. I don't think so.
That's
I
a,
think it's.
that's a tough one.
I think
That's
it's
a
an
tough
addition
one.
to information. Personally, like this might be. I don't know. It depends.
Give me the hot
It's just
take.
like because it kind of opens your world a little bit because now you have access to meeting people from much farther than you would if you come from like a small hometown where you're in that group of people where everyone goes to the same dive or this, that, and the other, where it's like harder to meet people. But it also makes everything oddly more superficial and you aren't really as apt to having like full conversations. I feel like I don't think I've ever been on Tinder and had like a legitimate like really
Yeah, most of it's preliminary. Like
it's
you
like
it's
kinda
gonna
talk
get-
about-
it's awkward small talk in
If
like
it's gonna
the
get
worst
legit,
way possible.
Yeah, if it's gonna get legit, it moves to the number or the Snapchat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah. Or you follow them on Instagram.
But that's
or-
the point. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, the dating apps, they're not meant to be your primary source of communication. They're supposed to get your foot
I
in the
think
door.
it gets dangerous though when that's people's primary source
Well,
of
that's
meeting
that's
people.
the well.
Again, it comes down to how you use it. It's not really what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it works. It works. I think it works both ways. I think if you don't really know, if you don't really understand your relationship with utilizing the app, then it can be a slippery slope because it takes a weird social activity and puts it in like the most
Turns it into a video game.
it turns into a little video game. It
does.
turns
Yeah,
into like
yeah.
this weird little efficient way.
Swipe until
of
you're rewarded.
Filtering people as data points.
It's a little
to
weird, yeah.
find. It's like going on like fucking Excel and setting a bunch of parameters
Yeah.
till you get like 5 or 10 that work, and then other people do that on their end.
Yeah.
And then it's hopefully
But-
it
No, it's true. Because
Even-
when you're looking
yeah.
at a Tinder, when you're looking, even it comes down to the sensory level. Like when you're looking at a Tinder profile, you're looking at the framework of an app with placeholders for people's processed pictures and text. You know what I mean? You're not looking at a human body that's emoting, that's in
And,
your
like-
presence.
Well,
know
yeah,
what I
you
mean?
have to almost come up with the image of like this person when you're talking. You know, even if you got pictures.
and you could be falsely identifying that a lot of the time.
Ooh, that thunder! I would know. James has catfished me before.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
I
Yes,
I
you
don't
did.
remember that.
Yes, you did. It was on
Oh,
Instagram.
No way.
Yes, it was. I
What?
wish I had the conversation. It was for
Oh.
like a couple hours.
Oh, it was a couple.
On the way home
I
from
remember
soccer
this.
practice.
That wasn't just me. I was just the person talking.
I know, but
It was me and other friends included.
Oh, I
that
know
you-
who it was.
That you, our friends included. But
When was this?
that's a
this was
cruel
high
meme.
school.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
high
man.
school.
this was
when
high
we were
school.
just-
This was a cruel meme.
we were yeah, it's fucked up, man. That's fucked up. I forgot I did that, but I apologize. It obviously didn't mean much to me.
I
but
will
it meant
get you
more to
one day. I will
I'm
get you one
Listen,
day.
when I'm dead, you can just pee all over my grave. It's fine.
Well, that was gonna happen
You can
regardless.
R. Kelly
That's
my-
regardless.
You can just R. Kelly my grave. That's cool.
But how about this? Give me your best online pickup line. What have you used?
My classic one.
Wait,
My classic one was always. There was a few. but The
Damn.
one I remember.
my classic one. Damn, girl, you shit with that ass.
You would never. You would never. I had a few dorky ones. Like because I went back and forth. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be funny. And then sometimes I was like, you know what? Like, let me actually see what this
Yeah,
person.
a
Let me
stark
see what
contrast.
this person's like. Let me see what their guts are of. You know? Let me.
True. Let me
see-
gauge,
Let me
you know.
gauge like this person like right from the get go, like real deep.
James starts off with like a dead
I would
baby
ask-
joke or
well,
something
no.
like that. Something like that.
Knock.
knock, knock, dead baby.
No, like one of them was like I would ask like if you won a Nobel Peace Prize, what would you want it to be for?
Huh.
Or if you want a Nobel Prize, what would you want it to be for?
Yeah, but that allows a lot of like, you know, that lets people
Or if,
people
like, if you could be-
create
or if-
false. You know, that allows for too much.
Well, I feel for me it was like
theatrics.
the people who wanted to give like a genuine response would like answer it super sincerely,
That's
and then
true.
some people would be like, I don't know, like. It would go very much two ways, and obviously, I'm more interested in the person who can like actually
Yeah.
come up with a conceivable thought of like what, you know, just coming up with hypotheticals and being able to play them out. Also, another one was like, if you could be famous for anything, what would you want to be famous for? And some people, obviously, the people that I was like not crazy about, would be like, I want to be famous for having a lot of money. And I'm like, you're boring.
But were these questions like the first thing you would
Yeah,
say to somebody?
like straight
The opener.
off the bat.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
open the door, just slam through the door, guns blazing.
Yeah.
My opener every single time because I had 2 Tinder phases, and the first one was terribly unsuccessful.
Right.
And then the second one was about 3 years later, and it
The
was
relapse.
incredibly successful. And what I said, well, first of all, my
You're talking about it like it's a mission.
Mike was like, we have successfully
Bogey
landed.
down. We'll get him next time. like
Section 2 secured.
it got all the way home. I'll say that.
in my point.
It was completely successful. But well, first of all, I mean, your pictures are the first thing that has to be optimized because
Well,
you have to
that's
show
the first thing people see.
you have to show your personality while also looking appealing. You have to do both of those things. So
And,
just
and
never had
God
a lot
knows you can't do that.
I never had. Listen here, brother.
the first time,
Let me guess. All
Bro,
your pictures were with hats on.
my first attempt,
I don't remember.
bro, my first picture was a fucking Snapchat filter, dude. It was.
Would you have the dog
That's
ears on?
skeevy.
It was a
You have the
filter.
dog
You're a
ears.
The
skeevy
first
fuck.
one was a filter.
Is it the one without the nose that makes your
No.
mouth big? The cute
No,
one?
I don't even remember. I just remember it was filtered in some way. And then, but the second time I did it, they were just like genuine pictures. But I was wearing like quirky shirts and shit. You know what I mean?
you.
Like,
It's just you.
yeah. And the opening line every single time was, "What's your opinion on the nature of consciousness?"
That is a very you thing to say.
That is.
And I
that
would
is
get-
drawing the line very quickly.
I would get essays back. Some people would just say like "what" or whatever, but some people would send paragraphs, and it was like, okay, we're filtering out some key things early. You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
thing. That's what I would try and get out of the like. What would you want to be famous for? Like,
Yeah.
just to get because I would always be vastly interested.
But
in
I
people
suppose
with
it
genuinely
depends.
interesting
but-
responses.
But here's the thing: it depends on, like the three of us can ask those same questions. Mike's question about consciousness, but we all might be looking for a different thing. Mike might be looking for a serious answer. I might be looking for somebody who can come up with the funniest answer. Completely disregard the question, but or something like that.
well, that's
It all
that's
depends
a-
on what you're specifically looking.
But I think
for.
that's the point of the question is to
That's-
quickly
yeah.
to quickly filter out the response
that. Yeah.
that it shows the person's personality as
Yeah.
quickly as possible.
And it's also a bold statement about you that you would ask something like that
Very true.
to strangers,
true.
So it's a reciprocal like, all right, what are you going to say to this? But also, how are you going to react to me saying this?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just kind of one.
very
It's just
true.
something that really cuts through all of the small talk. Which, by the way, I cannot stand.
Oh, I love
small
small
talk.
talk.
You would,
I
wouldn't
can't
I
do
you?
love
I
it.
can't do
I
You know what?
excel in it.
I
Ple-
hate
please.
it, dude. Thing is, because you're good at faking emotions. You're
I'm doing it right now.
You're
Small
really
talk-
good at fucking making
I
people
love it.
think you give a
I
shit.
absolutely
Small
you
talk
never
feels
do.
like you're in acting class, bro. It's
That's
like,
the
all right,
fun
let's
of it.
do an exercise.
You can portray anything you want. I could say anything about how my day was, and they would have to believe me.
Like, I can picture you just being like, "Oh, I got hit by," like, it's just some absurd shit. Like, I got bit by a snake, and then a homeless guy tried to pee on me, or something
I could say
ridiculous.
anything.
Like, it could. But the thing is, I don't like. First off, I don't like doing that. Second off, I don't like reciprocating people's small talk because I'll be honest, there's not a whole lot of small talk conversations where the person is actually grabbing my interest because it's just the most boring, basic.
Small talk
shit.
is inherently uninteresting. I feel.
It's-
That's the point.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be anything more than what it is.
Yeah,
But, if you're
I-
trying to
I-
gauge your interest level of a person, you're
Well,
not going
but
to
that's
use
another.
the,
but
the-
that's another thing. Like, if we're in small talk, like, you can use it to gauge how they are, because it's like, how can you keep this conversation interesting? Where can you take it to the point where it comes out of small talk? Like, are you going to be the person to where you're just like you keep it a bland conversation, or are you going to be the person to be like, well, you know what, I'm going to hop out of this small talk ravine and I'm going to take it somewhere else because
But that's the thing is small talk is so shitty that you need to just divert off of small talk as fast as possible. And like that's the goal. And you're just trying to gauge whether or not the small talk that you're making with that specific person actually leads into interesting conversations that you would have. See me, I would rather just fucking skip step one, go straight to the conversation that I think would be genuinely interesting. And if it's not reciprocated, no big deal.
Then you already know.
No big
Yeah.
deal.
It's the most
I don't want to
efficient-
have the conversations.
It's
then.
the most efficient way because you cut right
Just
right
get
to the
past
point.
it. Specifically on something like Tinder.
Yeah.
If you're in person and it's like you're at an event
In person's
or
different.
something, but specifically
You can make small
on
talk in
Tinder,
person because you're
there's a lot
gauging their
more
body language
Yeah,
and
there's a
stuff
lot
like that.
only
Yeah.
10% of your actual communication is verbal. The rest of it comes in body language.
But on Tinder, it's all verbal.
Yes.
It has
and
to
so
be.
you're
Yeah.
only residing in that 10%. So it's like,
Yeah.
why am I going to sit here and just listen to you talk about bullshit? Like, oh, I used to play field hockey in high school, but then I stopped. It's like, no. Like, I want to ask you a big, outstanding question that you have to at least have sat and thought about for more than 30 seconds.
True. They're like, I remember talking to, this was like years ago, talking to a person, and it would basically only be small talk. And well, I find it fun, small talk. Like I want to have an
You find
actual.
it interesting
No, but
in
that's the
point
thing.
where you're like a
Yes,
puppet
but-
master.
yes, let me
like dancing another person in
Yes,
front
but
of
let
you
me continue.
because you
I-
just like to say
I-
ridiculous shit.
I obviously
evil.
want more, right? Like I want a fun conversation. Let's talk about something fun or funny or whatever, something more. But
How
this
they gonna
person
get there?
would just like the most monotonous like response of like even if it'd be like, hey, how was your day? I didn't talk to you today. Fine.
Oh,
like,
God.
and then it's like, how come, like, well, and then you tell them like, hey, I don't think this is, I don't think this is gonna work out. Why isn't it? It's because you're not giving me anything. How much? Like
You ain't do shit.
you literally ain't do no shit.
You're a piece of paper.
That's why the question, because the small talk can almost let that keep happening. If they respond in a one-word answer, actually, I mean, it
Well, I think that-
depends what the word is. But to the big question, if they respond to the big question in a boring way, all right, next.
I'm sorry, but this just isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
It is a weirdly more efficient way. To
It's
go
more
through
efficient,
a
yeah,
dating
it
scene.
is.
However, I think a repercussion of that is a lack of social ability on all fronts, and frankly, just a lack of socialization, because you can just choose this person that you are, and not that it's going to like be a long-term effective strategy of dating. You do, at some point or another, just become a dopamine fiend for the access that you have to this many people
Well, it's
who
small
I don't think everyone
supposedly
does that,
find you
though.
interesting.
I don't
Yeah,
think
that's
everyone
not
does
everyone.
that, though. Like
I
some,
think there's definitely a group, like an amount of people that do that.
but
I'm
I feel
sure
like
there are.
people who would do that on Tinder would do that anyway. Because people do that with people in general. You know what I mean?
I suppose.
Like they go to the bar, they have a one-night stand, they do it again.
I see
Like
what
there
you're
are
saying.
people like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I guess you could do it in a larger scale on Tinder, but
At least you're getting.
it's
something.
more so. Look, I'm for Tinder,
than
dude.
swiping.
It's all about how you use it.
Yeah.
It's not about what it is. You know what I mean?
I think it's just
Like,
harder to actually find and talk to people nowadays.
Yeah.
So Tinder is a great way to kind of have these layers.
I mean, it surely was with a pandemic 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the
People
pandemic was a
shut
whole nother
inside,
business.
But the pandemic was a
that
whole.
was some crazy
the pandemic
shit.
was a whole other business.
But it's not like people. Oh,
Because-
that was a weird. Tinder was weird. Not that I used it during the pandemic, but I knew people that did, and that's a weird. That's a weird position to be in because you use Tinder and you can't fucking meet the person. So what do?
Yeah.
You have
you're
these
you're
almost
in a-
fictitious
yeah,
relationships
you're almost in a
with
in a
the with the hope in the back of your mind that this is real.
I can't even. I won't like discount certain online relationships because, there are people who have online relationships, whether or not they're romantic or just like friendships that have flourished into actual like in-person relationship or you know, like I'm not gonna doubt it, but
I think there's a lot of people that do have that.
the majority of that is purely fantastical, if you will.
I think fantastical. Sure, we're gonna go with that
Quite
word.
the word. For that.
But I think fantastical. Fantastical.
I choose to describe it.
But anyway, so I think the difference is I think a lot of people that do meet on, you know, that do have those situations where they do meet at some point and have those long distance relationships and they work out even though they're not able to see each other. I could be wrong. I feel like a common experience might be that it's Tinder and its original use prior to COVID would be different than the transition to COVID, wherein, because you have a search radius, unless you didn't use a search radius on Tinder.
You pointing that directly
Yes.
towards me?
You have to use a search radius.
It's always
so.
a search radius.
Okay,
You
so
can just make it really fucking
You can
big.
make it really
Yeah.
fucking big,
Yeah.
but you have a, you know, relative search radius there.
Yeah.
Where let's say you meet in like a live stream or something.
Hmm.
The understanding is that you could be, no matter, like, these are people from all over, so you could be as far as possible to these people because you're not using an app that you're not using a thing that necessarily cares for that. You can use it for another purpose and that could work well in advance. However, you're way closer to that person and it's Tinder. People are using it for the reason of having a relationship and getting these close.
I mean, but
it's
also,
a different precursor to
Tinder
finding
or
that.
I mean, I think Tinder, but also just a lot of online sites are used for hookups instead of, you know, I think Tinder. I think that's what you said. Hinge is more for like, you know, more like adult trying to find relationship.
more
where
people-
I think as Tinder nowadays is divulged more into finding some
Tinder's
sort
a
of
little
hookup.
bit more greasy as far as
Tinder's
I'm
kinda
not-
grimy. Tinder's kinda
obviously-
grimy.
I'm not in the game, but the scouting.
Yeah, none of
the
us are in the game.
None of us are in the
However,
game, bro.
you know, I'll speak from experience because that's how my relationship
Well,
started.
I mean, I've been there.
Well, you had to
We-
be in the game
yeah,
to
all
get
three
out
of
of
us
the
yeah,
have
to be in the
it.
game to get out of the
Your
game.
default state is in the game, bro.
But the scouting report tells me
the players that I have in there.
what would have indicated
Reconnaissance.
the scouts have informed me that typically how it works is Tinder is a little bit more grimy and people's
Sleazy.
people's
Nasty.
purpose for that might be slightly different than
Yeah.
if you were on Hinge.
It's-
which seems,
yes, I
according
think so.
to the scouts, to the people.
That's why
be
meeting
a little bit
someone
easier.
someone on a online community that's focused around like if you're in a subreddit for a
Yeah.
specific interest and then you meet someone and you bond over the interest.
That's more genuine to me.
It's more genuine than if you meet someone where you're trying to meet someone. It's almost like how we were trying to think of ideas for this podcast and none of them would come.
However,
But they always come when you're not thinking about it. Like I feel like the most genuine shit always happens when you're not trying for it. You know?
well, and I can speak to that because my relationship, while it started on Tinder, I was legitimately not.
You were
looking
doing some other shit.
I was
Yeah,
not
exactly.
looking for anything. I was just bored in my
You were
hotel
living
room.
your life.
Literally bored in my hotel room in another state. And I was like, oh, I wonder who's around. Let me take a look. I wonder who's around.
That's kinda-
and then
that's kinda
it just
crazy.
and then it
that
just
was a bold move.
that was a bold move indeed. And then it just
Who's
happened
in my
and it took off from
vicinity
there.
in Ohio?
I said, who's in literally me in Ohio?
Who the fuck is in Ohio?
I was like, who can I have a conversation with tonight?
yeah. So
There you go.
And now,
that's nuts. Actually,
Now
I've
you're
never
still
heard
having that
story.
conversation.
Yeah.
but you're still having a conversation. But again, like not even I wasn't even on Tinder for its intended purpose.
There you go.
Quite literally, just trying to see
Yeah, that's
what
kinda,
people were out there. People stalking, if you will.
That's
Yeah.
kind of bonkers because my current relationship actually started when I was at a point where I almost for like a single year period. No, it might have been longer than that. I don't remember. I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like I am going to just focus on working on myself. I would like got off dating apps. I
And
was
you
like,
still didn't do that.
I did. For like a full year I did. And I legitimately don't you talk bad about me.
And you're still a piece of shit.
Well,
Curious.
you know, I made some leaps and bounds. I didn't say they were in that direction. I went somewhere.
I changed. I didn't say.
I was changed, man. I didn't say it was good
I
change.
didn't say for the better.
He moved.
He moved.
No, but I decided to kind of take my focus off of that, and for like a year and a half, I just kind of like focused on the things that I was doing at the time. I was in college, but I had to pull a whole nerd move and be like, "Yo, I'm just gonna focus on my career, man. I'm just
My curriculum.
my curriculum."
Yeah.
And I met my current girlfriend at a party, at a Halloween party where I had shaved off. It's a disgusting picture of me.
Was
You
it
guys have all
just your
seen it.
mustache?
I had shaved
I know
off
the
my
picture.
entire beard and just gone just full mustache, just full thick, like 4 months of not shaving mustache, where I was playing Nick Cage from Kick-Ass.
You had the shirt, didn't you?
I
It was a
had the
Nick Cage
shirt. I had everything. I had the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And all my college roommates were Nick Cage, different versions of Nick Cage. We were all Nick Cage. And I was having a random conversation about how I went into Boston and played a soccer game with this mustache on my face. Got multiple compliments. But having that mid-conversation, my current girlfriend now jumped into that conversation. And that's pretty much the first time that we
Yeah.
actually started talking.
You were just being
I
yourself.
was just
and then it
literally
happened.
being like, I wasn't looking for anything. It was just one of those moments where I was just being a complete ass. And funny enough, she's such a nice person, but she was so nice to me that at the time I thought she was being disingenuous,
Yeah.
almost satirical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to react. And I told her that, and she was genuinely offended.
That's how people feel about my girlfriend. I mean, we were purely platonic, like completely the friendliest friends. Like nothing romantic, whatever.
It was like that SpongeBob episode.
Yeah.
Which one?
Until it
The Friends episode between SpongeBob and Plankton.
Oh,
yeah. It was such a friendly friendship until one night.
friends.
Until one night it just wasn't anymore. You know what I mean?
we won friends
but-
then.
But I mean, it's true. My deepest, I mean, my previous, the girlfriend before this one with the same name.
I do.
You got
the
a
re-
name thing?
The reason
that
I don't
type.
know. I don't know. The reason that one started was because I took a Game of Thrones class in college,
That's the most
cool.
college thing to ever.
and I wrote like a fictional story. It was like an assignment, and then I was just fucking around. I made a black metal album
Oh yeah, I remember
based
that.
on this story.
I remember that.
And I showed it to my roommate, and he was like, dude, this shit's dope. And there was this suite of girls that we hung out with, and he was like, we should show them. We should have a listening party. And I was like, no one's going to like this shit.
It's
This is
black metal.
this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. Like, no one's going to like it.
It's so meta.
But we played it. We played it. And they all surprisingly loved it. And then the one who loved it the most started, like, flirting with me.
I would just pick from you.
Yeah, but that's the shit. Like, I wasn't trying. I just did that because I was fucking around. You know what I mean? I didn't
Right.
do that with any specific purpose, and yet something came from it. So I feel like, just like, you know,
It's very natural.
when you're not trying for it, that's when things happen. When you try too hard, nothing happens. You know?
I guess
So-
I
That's the
think
problem
it's-
with Tinder,
You can
in a
kind
way.
of read, because when you start talking to somebody like that, you can kind of read that desperation. Like have you ever had a conversation with somebody at like a party or something where they just reek
Yes.
of desperation,
you can
Yes.
tell.
and
dude.
you can tell,
You can tell.
and you're like ugh.
Yes, we
Like-
used to know someone like that in high school. Very much so.
You're like ugh. Leave me alone.
And I think you know who it is. I think you all know it is. I'm not at the discretion to
So
drop the name.
I think that's like a super, I don't know why it is, but I think it's like a very readable thing. when
I
you
think it's
start getting to that
avoiding
point.
codependency You know what I mean? Because someone who's that desperate is not going to be able to function on their own. Like, I feel like the strongest relationships are two people who have their own lives that work symbiotically
In
together.
tandem.
In tandem.
In tandem.
Not one person who leeches
Well,
off.
yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, a relationship.
parasitic,
A
you know?
relationship's not supposed to be 50-50. It's supposed to be 100-100.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
You're not supposed to
Yes.
get, like.
it's true. Yep.
You have to be fully committed to. It's like it's.
You got to
it's
be yourself
oddly-
before you can be with someone
Yeah,
else.
but it's like oddly enough. It's like having a doubles tennis partner. Like, you gonna be pissed off if that person's like not giving 100%.
You're trying to do the same
You're trying
shit.
to do. You have the same goals in mind.
You're on the same team.
You have this. Well, if you, so, I think what's also important is that you have to establish equivalent goals.
Your values.
and values.
Your value
and
structure
things
has
you
to be
want.
aligned, yeah.
So it's like that could be a little bit difficult, but it's still like when you find somebody who has all that stuff, it becomes a lot easier because you both are working towards the assumed same thing. And hopefully there's obviously multiple categories of how that works, but hopefully when all that stuff squares away and you guys both understand, you either have the same things and or have slightly different ones but are willing to kind of meet somewhere in the middle, then it makes things a lot easier. However, you can't do that shit on Tinder.
Yeah.
Or just like, I feel like it's really, really hard. I've never been a fan of it because I'm also one of the fucking driest. I think I'm literally one of the driest people on the other side of a cell phone, which, yes, acknowledges my bias for the entire conversation we just had. But I think I'm one of the driest people because I think I'm pretty good at reading body language, but on the other side of a phone, I don't know.
Well, it is different. I mean, you know, some
it's-
people are better online than in person. Some
Yeah.
people are better in person than online.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is like a weird dynamic that nobody ever had to worry about
Well,
like 40
that's
years,
true.
30
That's
years ago.
true.
It's the modern. It's the modern.
It's
dilemma.
just really, it's another caveat to dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Do you think like, because you've got younger brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Do you think, maybe not them, maybe like my niece's generation, that because that could easily turn into the predominant way of
And the pandemic
dating.
sort of.
It accentuated it,
Yeah.
especially with
Yeah.
people working remotely.
Yeah.
Because think about how, I mean, there's probably
That's
a shit
2
ton of
whole
people that
years.
met.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Like now that people are like working remotely, like there was probably a shit ton of people that met
At work.
working at the same place.
At
My
work.
sister met her current husband
Really?
while at a job that they both
Well, a lot of
hated.
people meet people at either their same school
Yeah.
or work environment or common town meetup place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's just like it gets to be one of those things that like as those, I mean, maybe not schools but like work environments and stuff, like as those become frequently challenging to have a public meetup for those things and they're instead all hosted online. The difficulty of not only like to me that just sounds awful to have like an entire to a certain point to have like an entire scene where you're predominantly doing online dating because even going out to like bars and stuff and talking to, and like initially talking to people and stuff like that, that's a pretty common, like not a common skill but like that's a practiced skill.
It's a necessary skill in a way. But it's
Yeah.
becoming less necessary
That's the thing.
nowadays. Yeah.
So it's just
But is that really a bad thing? I mean,
it's just a dynamic
It's
shift,
just a
but
different
I think it would just
thing.
be interesting
Yeah,
to
I
like,
wouldn't label it good or bad.
It's just
because
different,
it's
yeah.
just, you know, like
It's just the way it's going.
I think it becomes a
Yeah.
little bit more. I think it just becomes a little bit more challenging because people like to be social and socialized, and like that's a very normal thing. And I don't know if having a predominantly like online presence.
Well,
with-
the thing is, not everyone likes to socialize.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
I think people like to be involved. They like to feel like they have like a group.
Some people like to just have one person
Yeah.
you know.
Fair enough, yeah.
Introverts. I mean, if you're introverted, man, like, you're not gonna be like, oh, let's go out to the bar tonight, see what happens.
How did introverts meet people like?
An extrovert finds them and claims them.
Come
You
here.
are mine, and that's how it is. Or another introvert finds
They
them
still have
on
to go-
some
they
sort of
still have to go
accident,
somewhere.
and they're like, "Do you not like people? Yeah. Do you not like people? Yeah. Okay. Let's not
Let's
like
just
people
hang
together.
out together.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. That's it.
That must have been.
Should we have some final thoughts here?
Oh yeah, we can wrap it up. It's about an hour.
I think online dating, it's different. And I think that it's the practiced skill of initially meeting people and talking to them is not going to be a skill that's going to go away. That's not going to be a skill that can just go away, because there's, even when you have to, like, when you get a job and in business and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily know that the dating scene coming from that initial meetup where you're cold turkey meeting somebody in person up front and having that conversation with them is a good thing. And I think it's a weird change. Obviously it's very new, but I don't know how the repercussions will actually like show themselves. And I don't necessarily know if the repercussions will show themselves based on the dynamic we find ourselves in at that time. But it's weird.
The repercussions are unknown. That's what everyone can agree on. No one has any idea what society's going to be like in like 20 years.
Move so fast.
Yeah.
So just fuck around and find out.
Okay, I'll just not die.
Just fuck around and
Just
find out.
keep
Listen,
living and see what
Just keep
happens.
living.
listen, kids.
Just keep swimming.
Just don't
keep
send pics
swimming.
with your face. That's all I gotta say. Don't send pics with your face, and you're gonna do fine online dating. Okay.
Don't be too trusting.
Always look out for scams, kids. Please. You
Make
never
sure-
know.
Make sure they have a reputable address.
You never. If you think someone's catfishing you, just ask for them
Just
to send a.
FaceTime.
Just ask for them to send a picture holding 3 fingers up. That's all they need.
Or
Because if
two-
they won't, then
or
they're not
4
real.
spoons.
Or 4 spoons.
Who's
Sure.
ever carrying 4 spoons?
Sure. I am.
Show
Right
me.
now?
You want me to see? You want to see my
No,
suit? You want
FaceTime
plastic or metal?
FaceTime is the true test.
FaceTime is a true test.
Just FaceTime them.
Well, for online dating.
FaceTime is an important.
It's
tool.
an improvement.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that Mike G, you have any last thoughts? I know you don't think. I know that's.
It is hard for me. It is hard. Listen, again, no, just fuck around and find out. Just live your life. Do whatever. Do what you're going to do. And I'm a believer in shit's going to happen. So make the best of it. If you end up talking to somebody, make the best of it.
And don't try too hard.
You never know. Well, yeah, don't try too hard, but you try.
Try for yourself.
Try for yourself.
And then someone else will show
If you
up.
can't love yourself,
You can't
how
love
in the
someone.
hell are you going to love somebody else?
That's true. Yeah. I used to think it was bullshit. I used to think, oh, I could love myself through someone else.
Well,
It's not true.
that's not.
I found out the
that's
hard
not
way.
how
It's
that
not
works.
true.
No, you need
You
to,
gotta love yourself
in the
first.
in the
You gotta love
in an
yourself.
analogy, you need to have a full glass that's slowly getting more water before you can start pouring into somebody else's glass. Yeah, you can't be sharing a half filled glass.
If you got no income, you can't give to charity. You know what I'm saying?
Well, who
in
says
that
I wanna-
analogy,
I don't
relationships
need-
are
who says I
charity.
wanna- Yeah. Not everybody wants to give to charity. But
I know, Michael.
I know you. I know so you certainly don't.
fuck them kids, man. Fuck
kids,
them
bro.
kids. Charity my ass.
In summary, fuck them kids.
In summary, fuck
Fuck
them
the
kids.
kids.
Thank you. This was Critters Corner.
Good night.